of Ras Lanuf, oil-rich, strategic, and rebel-held for now. Forces loyal to Muammar Gaddafi have launched at least 4 airstrikes on Tuesday alone. Some witnesses say there have been up to 6 separate attacks. In the chaos, the rebel army takes aim at the sky. This man claiming there is a warplane above. A rocket. There is a rocket, he says. No exact figures just yet of how many lives lost in this offensive. Though sources tell AlJazeera an entire family was killed as they tried to flee the missiles. Many of the homes reportedly now evacuated. One of the first strikes struck near a residential area, shattering a water supply line.
What happened is that a warplane came and started to bomb a water plant that feeds the Ras Lanuf area, including hospitals and businesses in the city.
The city's main business is oil. Ras Lanuf sits in open terrain along the Mediterranean coast. It's a relatively small city, but has its own airport, sea terminal and oil refinery, with a capacity of 220,000 barrels of crude a day. The Gaddafi regime has flexed its aviation muscle with increasing force, an advantage some Western nations want neutralized. They're pushing for a no-fly zone to ban Libyan warplanes and helicopters from the battlefield. The UK and France are drafting a UN resolution to that effect, to be debated by NATO nations on Thursday. On the ground, though, the rebels say their resolve is stronger than ever. They're awaiting reinforcements in manpower and weaponry from the east, as the Libya opposition's National Council decides where the next front line will be. Gerald Tan, Al Jazeera.
Al Jazeera's Abduladim Mohammed is in Ras Lanuf and went to the site of one of the airstrikes.
This is one of the houses that was shelled here in Ras Lanuf about an hour ago by 2 missiles, and this is the aftermath. One of the missiles did not explode and landed over there. Parts of the home were completely destroyed. The neighbors say that the people who lived here managed to flee half an hour before the house was bombed. And in fact, now the entire neighborhood is empty. We witnessed tens of families fleeing the fighting, heading east to Ajdabiya and other towns. This is not the first attack today. The city was hit several times during the day, the last attack being less than an hour ago, here in the residential town of Ras Lanuf. A short while ago, we heard the loud sounds of explosions. I want to show you this unexploded rocket that fell in the same home and left a huge crater. It landed about 100 meters from the home we just showed you.
Now, at least 3 inmates have been killed and dozens more injured during clashes with police at a prison in Sana'a, the capital of Yemen. Around 2,000 prisoners have joined protests across the country, calling for the removal of President Ali Abdullah Saleh. Al Jazeera's Hashim Halbara has more.
Plumes of smoke billowing from the central prison in the capital. Violence broke out when inmates started chanting anti-government slogans and denouncing President Saleh. Security forces fired tear gas. The whole area is sealed off by security forces amid mounting tension in the capital. The popular movement for change has entered its 4th week, and the resolve of the protesters remains strong.
I think after Tunisia and Egypt, we are very optimistic that change will come to Yemen. I mean, after 30 years as a president on Yemen, it's time to change.
They know that the fall of the regime may depend on a complex interplay of factors, like the role of the army, the tribes and the opposition. However, they are very confident that they continue to inspire people to take to the streets. They might be able to achieve their goal in the weeks to come.
Calls for dislodging the president are widely ignored here in the parliament. This session is boycotted by the opposition, which accuses the parliament of rubber-stamping presidential decrees and decisions. President Saleh's General Congress Party is already showing cracks. At least 15 MPs have resigned over what they say is a brutal clampdown on the protesters.
After we resigned, we formed an independent bloc. Our plan is to push to reform the whole political system. Look at the situation now and you will understand why it has to be imminent.
To enforce change, the protesters are mustering more people here in the capital and across the country. They hope that one day the president will heed their calls to stand down. Hashim Al-Barra, AlJazeera, Sana'a.
Still ahead on this programme, a massive bomb attack in Pakistan's Faisalabad city, and it may be linked to the 2009 attack on a Sri Lankan cricket team. And on International Women's Day, we meet a software engineer from China who's going head-to-head with search engine Google.
Well, across the Indian subcontinent, we are looking at fairly dry conditions, but very warm conditions right now. We're looking at temperatures anywhere from the mid to high 30s. Take a look at what we expect to see on Wednesday. Hyderabad at 38 degrees, Kolkata at 35. New Delhi, that's when you have to get into the 20s, but they're going to be seeing about 20 degrees themselves. Otherwise, we're looking at really no precipitation in the forecast, so very dry for them. But down to the south, I want to take you down, especially to the Mozambique Channel. We're watching this area of circulation very, very carefully over the next couple of days. Nothing has been put out by the Joint Typhoon Warning Center about this possibly turning into a cyclone, but I've been looking at the forecast models, and this could be a potential problem for not only Mozambique, but also for Madagascar, so we'll keep you informed on that. Just to the south, Durban at 29 degrees. Most of the rain showers will stay really just to the west of there. Cape Town is dry at 25, and Johannesburg, a warm day for you at 31. Well, up towards the Arabian Peninsula, we're also looking at dry conditions over the next couple of days. What we are seeing, though, are temperatures beginning to rise there. Doha at 29 degrees, Abu Dhabi at 30, and over towards the east, Muscat is seeing about 28 degrees for them. And a little bit further to the north, we're seeing some rainy conditions along that Iran-Iraq border. Baghdad, very windy conditions at 25 degrees, and Kuwait City, windy themselves at 27.
The army has to prove they have no intentions of hijacking power and of keeping any remnants of the old regime.
From people making the news.
The earthquake happened over a year ago. Now you want to come back and help your fellow Haitians?
To those it affects.
If Washington doesn't begin to help stabilize the government, it will create a backlash.
Behind the headlines.
Neither the United States nor China can hurt the other without hurting itself.
Is the inside story at this time on Al Jazeera.
Welcome back. Here's a reminder of our top stories. The head of Libya's opposition National Council says the Libyan leader must stop the bombing and leave the country within 72 hours. In return, the opposition has said he will not be prosecuted under the Libyan laws. There's been intense fighting in the oil city of Ras Lanuf. Witnesses say Gaddafi's forces have launched at least 6 airstrikes in the region.